I've dreamed about sailing the North Channel of Lake Huron for years. In late 2010, I loaded my Phil Bolger designed Long Micro sailboat with 2 weeks of supplies, hooked a trailer to the truck, and headed north. Each mile takes me further from the heat and humidity of East Texas and closer to the adventure of sailing the North Channel. There's plenty to look at along the way, and passing motorists often stare at my boat pugnacious on the back. After 3 days on the road, we near the end of our trip as we pass over the Mackinac Bridge and catch our first glimpse of Lake Huron. I launch at Passage Boat Works, which is just south of Detour Village, Michigan. After rigging, pug, and loading my supplies, I motor and sail east across the Detour Passage. I anchor for the night at Harbor Island, Michigan. I spend the evening cooking dinner, trying to organize the interior, and swatting black flies and mosquitoes. Harbor Island is an ideal anchorage. The island is a state park without buildings or other signs of humans. The harbor is well protected on all sides and the holding is good. During the busy part of the season, I've heard that as many as 50 boats will anchor here, but tonight there is only one other boat in the harbor. The evening is clear but turns cloudy and then rainy overnight. I wait until most of the rain has moved on and depart at 1100 the next morning. It's Tuesday the 22nd. I'm leaving Harbor Island. We're under sail. Nice light breeze today. On my second day, I travel from Harbor Island around the north and then east shore of Drummond Island. I anchor for the night in a small anchorage called Pilot Cove. It is a tiny but well-protected anchorage with 4.5 feet of water at the entrance. At first, I'm startled to see boulders on the bottom. Since I've mostly sailed on Lake Erie, I'm not used to seeing the bottom at all. The cove opens and I anchor in 11 feet of clear water. Once again, I share the anchorage with a deer, birds, and, at dusk, mosquitoes. Tuesday, June 22nd. This is Pilot Harbor on Drummond Island, and it is pretty much exactly how the tour book said it would be. It is tiny. There's room for a couple boats in here. There's nobody else here. There's a beautiful little anchorage. Got about 10 feet of water. Visibility's great. On my third day, I sail and motor from Pilot Cove past Coburn Island to Meldrum Bay on the west end of Manitoulin. As I enter Meldrum Bay, a thunderstorm approaches from the west. Fortunately, there is little lightning, but it rains as I dock at Meldrum. I have to clear in with Canadian Customs and Immigration. This is a simple task done by telephone at the dock. Then I eat lunch at the Meldrum Bay Inn, shower across the street, and anchor pug in the bay for the night. The water is clear and I can easily see the bottom in 15 feet. On my fourth day, I plan to sail from Meldrum Bay east to Gore Bay. It's a trip of 32 nautical miles, but a fresh wind is blowing from the west. I left Meldrum Bay at 0700 with the full main up, but within a quarter mile I was overpowered. So I tied in the first reef and continued north. Within another quarter mile I was overpowered again, so I tied in the second reef. Unfortunately, 2 of the sail slides dropped off the track, and I only noticed this when I raised the main. I figured that it might be better to reconvene the crew and discuss our options, so I retreated to my anchorage in Meldrum Bay. I put the reefed mainsail in order and listened to the weather radio, and the weather radio claimed the winds would drop from 20 knots to 15 knots around noon. Perfect! Mind you, I've sailed and beat pug into winds approaching 30 knots. I just got a bad feeling when I was reefing pug that morning, and I opted to take a little time. I'm on vacation after all. I napped and then left Meldrum for a second time at 1300 hours with 2 reefs tied in the main. We sailed north, out of the bay, and then headed east, running before a fresh breeze. The waves were a little over 3 feet at first, but pug scooted along at more than 6 knots. At this rate, we would be in Gore Bay for supper. As we cleared Cape Roberts, however, the wind piped up considerably and pug wanted to head into the wind. The waves grew to 4.5 footers, and some of the waves were so big I couldn't see over them from the troughs. Just to add excitement, the tiller started to crack and delaminate. Since I built the darn thing, I only had myself to blame. I could probably manage continuing to Gore Bay provided the tiller didn't break. I have a spare, but it would take time to bolt on, and it might be dicey for a few minutes on puck. I could press on and hope the winds would die just a bit, or I could run into Bayfield Sound, which was immediately to my south, and shelter behind the windward shore. I opted to run south into Bayfield Sound, although I didn't have a good chart for the bay. At times, there is an advantage of having a boat which draws 19 inches of water. I spent the night anchored off the east shore of Bayfield Sound, safe from the winds and waves. I also replaced my tiller. On my 6th day, I continue east from Bayfield Sound. It's an easy, relaxed 6-hour sail, and I arrive in Gore Bay at noon. I explore the town, eat an excellent meal ashore at Rocky Raccoons, and spend the night at the dock primarily so I can take a shower. In the morning, I purchase one more chart, a detail of Blind River and Point East, and this chart will prove crucial later in the trip. In Gore Bay, I am 60 nautical miles, as the crow flies, from my launching point, and I'm just getting into the most popular parts on the North Channel. It rains most of the night. On my 7th day, I sail north in splendid conditions to my anchorage at Eagle Island. My day's sail is a high point of my trip. Saturday the 26th, we're facing north. We're getting into kind of the channel area here. That's north. Right behind the mizzen, that is Darch Island. We just sailed through here, which is the passage between Darch and that's Innes Island over there. And then as we come around, the Benjamins are over there, behind that other island, and I think this is Eagle Island, with some pretty cool kind of pink granite looking stuff on it. Eagle Island sits in the heart of what many consider to be the quintessential North Channel. Numerous rocky islands dot the landscape, trees lean bent by the prevailing winds, and the water is clear and cold and dotted with deadheads. I anchor for the night in a small cove off the main harbor on Eagle Island. I watch a fox bring its kill down to the water line and then scramble off into the woods. It's Sunday morning, the 27th. It's about 8:20 in the morning. I'm still in Eagle Harbor because you can see the fog is pretty thick. It is not lifting the way the weather people said it would. What's new about that? It's been a very calm night at anchor. Very nice. There's an island out there in the middle of this harbor, and you can barely see it. Occasionally I can see it through the gaps in the fog, but just another foggy day at anchor here. Hopefully the fog will lift, and we'll get moving over to Bear Drop Harbor, I hope. Once the fog lifts on my 8th day, I sail and motor east from Eagle Harbor towards Bear Drop Harbor. I must pass through the Little Detroit Passage, a narrow and kind of shallow choke point. No worries for us. I continue west and finally enter Bear Drop and anchor for the night. The anchorage is the most crowded I have visited thus far. There are 4 other boats anchored overnight. The weather radio warns that the next day, in the late morning, the wind will increase significantly from the west, and since I'm headed west to Blind River, I want to avoid this. Unfortunately, the morning is foggy and my departure is delayed for hours. When I can wait no longer, I venture westward into the lifting fog. I make it as far as Gibson Island, the point where the water gets very shallow, and still 5 nautical miles away from Blind River. As we motor west, the winds come blasting on our bow, blowing across the shallow bank and whipping the thin water into steep, jagged, saw-toothed waves. The outboard runs at full throttle and spray washes the deck. The GPS shows a half knot of forward progress at times. The bow blows off the wind. Eventually we make the shelter of Combe Point and enter the Blind River Marina. The wind blows non-stop for 3 days, so I spend 3 days in Blind River. I meet lots of friendly, kind people, and after the solitude in the North Channel, it's nice to be around good people again. On July 1st, Canada Day, I sail southwest towards Tolsonville on Coburn Island. The internet reports that Tollsmaville is a ghost town and uninhabited. However, when I'm there, I see a great many ghosts. They mow their lawns, drive pickup trucks, they're very friendly, and that evening, to celebrate Canada Day, they shoot off fireworks. They're patriotic ghosts, I guess. On July 2nd, I depart Tollsmaville early and motor 40 nautical miles west to Drummond Island, Michigan. I must clear with U.S. Customs and Immigration, and the closest place to clear is the Drummond Yacht Haven. I arrive at noon and clear with the officer on duty. I then head over to Harbor Island for a spell, and then back to Passage Boat Works. I pull Pug out of the water the next morning and begin my 3-day drive back to Texas.